Yo, what is up? You have found We Like the Blazers. I am Brandon Mullen, and over there on the West Coast where I will soon be, it is the magnanimous, that's, I don't know, too big of a word, but
nice. I like that.
It's the person, Connor Bergen. What's up, man?
Hey, Brandon, I'm counting down the days until you are back on the West Coast. And spoiler alert, we can perhaps record some of these episodes in person, like the old days.
We are, in fact, working on a We Like the Blazers central studio, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, I'm excited to be back. I think, and Parker is too. Spoiler alert, Parker's probably going to join us again on this episode. She has been very wiggly, and I know she's hungry. I know you are, but she's not eating her food. But that's okay, Connor. We want to talk about Blake Wesley, and we want to talk about Shaedon Sharpe and his contract negotiations. But why don't we start with Blake Wesley? What's the deal with Blake Wesley?
Yes. Yeah. What's the deal? One of the storylines of training camp, one of the main storylines, is the backup point guard rotation battle right now after Scoot Henderson's injury. Some people kind of expected maybe Chauncey would just plug in that spot with Shaedon Sharpe or Denny Avdia, or have one of the core members of the rotation, non-traditional point guards fill it. But he made it really clear on the first day of training camp when it was brought up that it's an open battle, and he's not counting out Blake Wesley or Caleb Love. And you kind of expect coaches to say that, but the impression I keep getting is there actually is some juice to Blake Wesley and his potential to crack into that rotation with Scoot out. And I broke them down into three. Hey, Parker. I broke them down into 3 bullet points of why Blake Wesley could really get minutes to open up the season.
Okay. Is one of them Scoot Henderson has a hamstring injury?
That is number 1. So you know what? It's 4 bullet points. That was a presumed bullet point.
What was that? Parker tells me that she even knew that one.
Yeah, no. And Chauncey was honest about that too, because he said, when we signed Blake, I was real with them, and I told them, with Scoot and Drew, you might go weeks without playing. You just got to stay ready. So none of this really, the Scoot Henderson injury, changed the whole calculus about this. But with Scoot out, the number one thing that stands out about Blake Wesley, 6'3", former first-round pick with the San Antonio Spurs, same year as Shaedon Sharpe's draft, so he's entering his 4th year. Is his skill set.
I was about to say, what is he top level known for?
Exactly. So, let me ask you this, Brendan. What do the Blazers keep saying they want to do on offense? What have they been saying?
We want to run. We want to go fast.
We want to have
15
Ricky
pounds
Bobby
of muscle. Right, exactly.
Yeah,
We're bringing back the 77 Blazers, and they're running red hot and rolling in Rip City. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the 1962 Cleveland High School Warriors kind of style. They were called the Galloping Ghosts that year. A random
Where
fact
are you
about
getting
my
that
alma
from?
mater.
What do you
That's
mean
real.
1962?
That is real. They won the
Where
PIO title.
Why did that come of all the things that you could say all the high schools in America? Why the 1962 Galloping
I went to
Ghosts?
Cleveland High School, and
Okay.
it hung up there in the rafters, 62, and I forget who, but somebody was they called them the Galloping Ghosts. They were so fast, and I thought that was the funniest
Was it the
nickname.
janitor who also is a secret NBA basketball player in his previous life?
No, so
Just see him draining threes after practice.
Yeah. I actually think he was immortal. So they want to go fast. You know what Blake Wesley does really well? He goes fast, super fast. They described him as Scoot type speed. And we all know Scoot's fast. So he's the guy coming in to push the tempo. Number 2, what do the Blazers hang their hats on as the identity of the team?
It's got to be the defense, Connor.
Got to be the defense.
Got to make him uncomfortable.
Blake Wesley loves making them uncomfortable. His specialties are pushing the tempo and defense, and that is nothing that there's nothing that Chauncey Billups loves more. So that's number one.
There's really not. When you show up to Thanksgiving with the Billups family, if you show up with a little bit of defense, a little bit of tempo, they're going to be smiling at you.
Mm-hmm. So he just fits exactly kind of what this team does, and I think that's why he came here partially. Joe Freeman wrote a report that Joe Freeman of the Oregonian wrote that Wesley and his camp actually sought out the Blazers to come here. It was
I saw that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. They approached the Blazers for the opportunity.
I should have this in front of me, and I don't. But just out of curiosity, because I always think about agents and teams and the relationship between. Do we know who Blake Wesley's agent is, or the agency that represents him?
Great question. I do not. But are you wondering if it's a clutch?
No, I don't know. I'm just connection? I'm wondering. If it's this would be an interesting little table to put together. Would be year by year which agencies or agents represent the players that are on the Blazers, and just see if and how it evolves over time, and particularly at the change of administration, right? From Kevin Pritchard to Rich Cho to Neil Olshey to Joe Cronin, if anything changed. I don't know. I just think it'd be interesting. But
no, for sure. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a big Clutch sports lean for a while, right? Isn't Chauncey represented by Clutch or?
And Shaedon Sharpe is. Yusuf Nurkic is. I'm trying to think of who else.
Young Hansen is.
Oh, is that right? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's
the
cool.
guy.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, when he walked down from the rafters, he gave a big old hug to Rich Paul.
Good for him. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. That's
cool?
right. That's right.
But back to Blake Wesley.
Back to Blake Wesley.
Back to Blake Wesley.
See, it's only 1 or 2 degrees of separation from Blake Wesley to Young Hansen. It's just
exactly.
I guess they do play on the same team, so that's to be expected. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Oh, but I did look up his agent. It's Aaron Mintz and Dave Spawn. Not sure what agency that is, but shout out to those guys.
Shout out.
And
come on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they seems like fits very well. Also, I wonder if he noticed there was some depth available, like if one of Scoot Henderson or Drew Holiday got hurt, they didn't have a primary backup point guard, so that makes sense too. The second part is not too, you don't want to base too much stuff off FanFest because it's in the name. It's in the name.
It's a festival for the fans. And
yes,
is not necessarily representative of how the season will go.
But during that scrimmage, and to be honest, with the lower end bench guys, I'm still kind of figuring out what they look like on the court. So a guy made 2 or 3 plays where he drove really fast, got up to the rim, looked really athletic. It just kind of stood out. And I was like, who? I felt like I was a scout at a high school game, and I was like, I need to know this guy's name. Look down, it's Blake Wesley. So he kind of showed
showing off the Jets at FanFest.
Yeah, he showed some stuff that just supported this whole idea that Chauncey was talking about his speed and his defense. He also locked up Drew Holiday on the final possession, really hounded him. And it's a crunch time possession, so I feel like if all the plays in FanFest, they're going to be going hard on that one. And he almost go ahead.
No, go finish your thought.
Oh, he almost forced an 8-second count on Holiday. Then he almost caused him to lose his dribble at half court, and then finally in the last few seconds, Holiday gathered his control again and went down and scored a really tough floater to win the coveted FanFest championship. But he did look impressive. That's the most I've seen him up in person ever, and he stood out.
That's good to hear. I part of me wants to make fun of that he looked impressive in FanFest. Is
as you should.
Right. It's I don't know. I think that's even worse than saying someone had a good summer league. But my question really, this Blazers team is a team starved for offense. And maybe it's not even a question, it's just a statement of even if we need depth at the guard position, how much is he really going to play? How useful is he really on offense? And obviously, with someone who is a really, really, really good defender, you can kind of make your way through some semblance of an NBA career without being amazing on offense. We have a player like that on the team whose name is Matisse Thybulle, and he's not the best offensive player by any stretch, but he's good enough, right, to stick on the court for the 15 17, 19 minutes that you might need him at any given time. And, if Blake Wesley can do that, then great. But I do think it's particularly difficult. This would be an easier fit if this Blazers team had maybe a surplus of offense and needed, it's weird to say on the one hand, it's so great how he fits, right? His agency reached out to the Blazers to I want to work with you all because you love defense and I love defense and we love defense. And they signed him. And but on the other hand, it's almost harder, right? Because what he has, they don't necessarily need. And
That's
what they
point.
need, he doesn't have. So and Parker has a lot of opinions about this too. But let me just ask you this straight up. Scoot Henderson's injured. Okay, fine. That creates some opportunity. Do you really, when you look at Basketball Reference at the end of this upcoming season, do you expect to see that Blake Wesley, that the column that shows minutes per game is above double digits? Is that something that you anticipate seeing?
What a good question. I'm going to say, yeah, if Scoot Henderson's back, probably not. I think he's going to be a spot minutes guy or a break glass in case of emergency guy. And that might only be happening for the first month or two of the season.
Which is not the worst thing to have. I mean, also if you have, let's say, a Drew Holiday trade at some point, right? Or you have another injury at some point that it might be useful. So, maybe, or maybe he takes a step that he hasn't taken yet. I mean, there are players who develop stuff after their first 3-4 seasons. I mean, that's not totally unheard of. I wouldn't expect him to suddenly become great on offense, but to see some development is not the most, outlandish thing in the world.
No, yeah, he's
okay.
He's a high upside flyer, basically. Former first round talent. He got injured his rookie year. He's had some performances in San Antonio. So I think it's a low risk, high reward type of guy to bring in, and at worst he just contributes to your team's practice culture with how hard he plays.
Well, what does have a little bit of risk, Connor?
Here we go, the main topic.
Making the main thing, giving a massive rookie extension to an as yet proven player such as Shaedon Sharpe. Let's talk about Shaedon Sharpe. There has been so much conversation in the Blazers zeitgeist in the universe of different Blazers content, including us at Blazers Edge, and now including us on We Like the Blazers, about the 22-year-old Sharpe, who is now eligible for an extension. My understanding and yours is that between now, and we're recording on Tuesday, October 7, but between now and October 20, that if he and the Blazers want to come to an agreement on an extension, that they can. My understanding is that he would then become a restricted free agent. Is there a piece of paperwork that needs to happen there? He needs to sign a qualifying offer, or does he have the opportunity to play one additional season and then get out scot-free? I forgot exactly how it works. Maybe with rookie extensions that you have control over them no matter what. Maybe
I think you have control no matter what. Yep.
Okay, I think you're right. So
if he doesn't do October 20th, he's locked into restricted free agency.
I love how all these billionaire owner fat cats love free market capitalism until it comes to controlling their players, Connor.
Until it comes to those rookies.
Exactly. So a lot of this has come up because there was some reporting from Jake Fisher, who was writing on behalf of the Stein line, led by Mark Stein, that the Blazers, and I want to be careful about this language, the Blazers had, quote, discussed a 4-year, $90 million extension with Shaedon Sharpe and his representation. As we begin framing this out, because basically, Connor, spoiler alert, I want to get to what do we think he's worth, but in order to do that, we got to talk a lot about some other stuff first. But just to frame this out, the salary cap for this season is $154 million. It's a lot of bread. So making approximately $22.5 million per year, that would be the 4 for 90. That would be 14% of the cap. 14% of the cap would be $22.5 million a year. And I say that because you hear $22 million a year, $22 million a year. That sounds like a lot. I mean, it is a lot, but remember that the cap has gone up quite a bit. I mean, even in the last 5 years, it's gone up like 50% almost, from $109 to $154 million. So all to say, a lot of this conversation the last few days around Shaedon Sharpe and his contract extension was, initiated by this reporting from Jake Fisher that the Blazers had discussed a 4-year, $90 million contract with Shaedon Sharpe. I'm going to pause there. So actually, no, I'm not going to pause there. Sorry, I should be a little bit more organized, but I'm not. What I'd like to do, what I'd like to do is try to put not just that in context, but I want to put into context how much should a player around Shaedon Sharpe's level, what have players like him gotten in the past? And so, Connor, what I did was I went through the past 6 years of rookie scale extensions, and I tried to find players who were extended somewhere between, what did I say? Between about 15% of the cap, which is what that reporting says, and about 21% of the cap.
So you accounted for inflation. And
I did account for inflation. Part of what I also wanted to do, and at any point, please jump in and interrupt, but part of what I also wanted to do with this was the reporting that came from Jake Fisher. Most people agree that sounds a little low, right? Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
It's the low ball offer in the haggling process. It's the first offer.
Right. It's unlikely that Shaedon Sharpe is going to accept that offer. Is that fair to say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So actually what we are going to do, before we get into even more of this, we're going to take a brief break. I'm actually going to do a hard cut, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk even more about Shaedon Sharpe, including some other reporting and analysis that people have done. Hang tight. And we're back. The magic of video editing, Connor. We probably could have rolled through that, but it's better that we didn't. Before we run through, again, some of these comparison players that have gotten extensions off of their rookie deal around the same place that we expect to see Shaedon Sharpe, I wanted to make a couple more notes. You should tune into the Lockdown Blazers podcast with Mike Richmond because he just talked about this subject, which I very much appreciated. He also pointed to work done by Owen Phillips, who's now working, I think, for the Denver Nuggets, about restricted free agency. If you want to understand kind of like the dynamics of the league and the salary cap and how much free agency and restricted free agency is or isn't a thing anymore and how much it benefits teams or players, you should check out Owen's work. Another thing I wanted to mention is that John Hollinger, who was once a front office person in Memphis and now has been kind of in the NBA media sphere for a while, has a metric called boards that is a silly acronym, but he tries to quantify how much, according to his metrics, a player is worth. He believes, according to this metric, that Shaedon Sharpe is worth $14.2 million per year, which would be less than 10% of the cap. Connor, I want to come out and say it seems really weird.
Seems really low.
Really low. Even if you just took Shaedon Sharpe's production last year alone and he got no better, I think as we run through this list of like comparisons, you'll see that he's worth a hell of a lot more than 10% of the cap. I mean, that just, I truly think he missed the mark on that one. And, God love him. Come on the podcast, John.
Yeah. A local man, or at least used to be local, I think.
Used to be, yeah.
It is interesting, though, because I do have one. John Hollinger the last 2 years has been super critical of the Blazers. And then this metric is also super critical of Shaedon Sharpe, which is maybe why he's a little critical. Like, Shaedon Sharpe is a pretty important piece of the rebuild, and according to his big analysis, like, he just isn't an effective player. But I have a friend who's not John Hollinger, not in the media, but a smart friend.
I have a friend who's not John Hollinger.
I have a friend, not John Hollinger, but he is very, off the Shaedon Sharpe train. And he's a guy who loves diving into advanced statistics, and he tells me that advanced statistics hate Shaedon Sharpe. I think it's about his efficiency. I think it's the shooting. He's a high volume scorer, or that's the idea of him, but he's not super efficient shooting the ball. So I think that's where some of this is coming. I am much higher on Shaedon Sharpe, and his ability to finish at the rim, I think, changes that, and how young he is changes that. But I think the efficiency with his shot and the lack of defense is maybe why there's this very glass half empty view of him.
And I think that's fair. And also it's fair to say that for players who are 22 years old, the trying to figure out how much might they be worth in the future is difficult because you're trying to price in improvement. And you also are looking at the ecosystem in which they're playing. What has he been asked to do? What are the pieces around him? Are the pieces around him those that allow him to be his best self? How is the coaching? All of this stuff matters when trying to evaluate, especially younger players. And so again, and one more thing before we go into my little spreadsheet. There were some other players that I just in very recent, the last 2 years, that felt like, hey, these guys got more than Shaedon Sharpe's going to get. Your Jalen Williamses, Chet Holmgrens, Paolo Bancheros, Kane Cunninghams of the world that got like $50 million a year. That's not going to be Shaedon Sharpe. Mm-hmm. On the other end, you have players like Nikola Jovic with the Heat, Moses Moody with the Warriors. Nikola Jovic got $15 million a year. Moody got $12 million a year. That didn't seem like quite enough for now. Again, if you ask John Hollinger, maybe that Jovic deal is kind of what Sharpe is worth. Again, like based on the position that he plays, what his skills are, the flashes he has shown, and his age, I think Shaedon Sharpe is worth a lot more than that. And so we kind of set those as kind of outside the boundary.
It seems like there's the star tier, and then there's the role player tier at the bottom, and Shaedon Sharpe is like in the middle of like could pop as a star, like is a decent player, but might not reach that height, like kind of
Correct.
in between.
That's right. So with all of that being said, and I'm about to say a lot of things, and as I'm saying them, I'm trying to figure out how to make this most useful for an audio format. By the way, I will put this table in our article on Blazers Edge. So when you see that drop on the site, you can actually find the table there. Just to repeat, I went through all of the players from 2020 until today who were coming off of rookie deals, who were extended by their team, and those contracts were between 15% and 21% of the cap. So that would be the equivalent in today's dollars of $23 million and $32 million a year, okay? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to read the names. I'm just going to read the names first, okay? So players in that range. This year we had Jabari Smith Jr. Last year we had Trey Murphy III. 2024 we had Devin Vassell and Jaden McDaniels. 2023 we had a handful. We had RJ Barrett, DeAndre Hunter, Keldon Johnson. In 2022 we had Mikal Bridges and Kevin Huerter. In 2021 had a kind of a gaggle of people. We had OG Anunoby, Derek White, Jonathan Isaac, Markelle Fultz. And then in 2020 we had Buddy Hield, Domantas Sabonis, Karis LeVert, and Dejounte Murray. Connor, this is the totality of players who, again, coming off of rookie deals, were extended between 15 and 21% of the cap. How does that make you feel? And you think about those names, and you think about Shaedon Sharpe. What's coming to mind for you as we just start by just kind of listing the names? Like, what about this guy? Doing the what about this guy thing. Like, what's coming up for you as you hear those names?
It's a pretty good mix of players for the most part. Like, and some of those players I think popped even further. Like hearing OG Anunoby's name. Like, some of those guys sound like they should be worth more, and some of those guys sound like they should not be worth that much. It's like
yes.
Choose your own adventure. There's a gamble involved in these contracts.
I love that that's where you started, because I do think that's what came to mind for me too. These are usually when you extend someone for like the most amount of money possible, you have some certainty that they're worth the most amount of money possible, right? When you're extending for between 15 and 21% of the cap, a lot of this is based on potential, right? A lot of this is based on, I don't know, like when you tick through the ages of these players, like a lot of them are 22, 23, 24. You have some older guys in there, but I do think that in this range, like what I thought about as I was researching this is what were those teams and those fans thinking? Like we are Blazers fans thinking about Shaedon Sharpe. We've seen him pop. We've seen the flashes. We've seen the potential. We know that maybe Shaedon Sharpe could be like really, 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 really good, right? But what is it that Spurs fans thought about a 23-year-old Keldon Johnson? What is it that the Nets thought about a 25-year-old Karis LeVert? And what is it that they turned into, right? So all to say, though, we, again, between 23 million and 32 million. This list of names, Connor, there's nothing in here that's like, to your point, there are like a couple of outliers on either end, like OG Anunoby and Sabonis on the one end, and then
I said Anunoby at first, but I'm looking at it again. It's like Sabonis,
sure,
DeJounte Murray, like all stars.
We would love Shaedon Sharpe to turn into those players. We would not like Shaedon Sharpe to turn into a Jonathan Isaac who didn't play for multiple years, or I don't know, and I'm not trying to throw shade, but
LeVert, essentially, like
Kevin Huerter, again, no shade on those folks. Like, they're NBA players and they've made more money in their career than I will make in multiple lifetimes. But the thing that comes to my mind is it's not Sharpe, and his representation are not outrageous to look at something like a $20 million deal and be like, haha, that's way too low. Right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of my point in
that's
here.
That's almost like the worst case scenario of how he could develop. That's if he doesn't go that much higher at all.
Nobody on that list, got the equivalent of less than $23 million a year in today's cap environment.
And everybody is except for maybe a few guys on that list who were basically derailed by injuries. Everybody is, I would say, average at worst. So
here's where I want to go now with this is that let's imagine that you're Shaedon Sharpe and his representation, and let's say that they have this list, right? Let's say they have this list and the Blazers are looking at it with them. Who do you think on this list is Shaedon Sharpe and his representation saying he's going to be like this guy? Where do you think his representation, and of course they're going to paint an optimistic picture of their client, but where do you think they can credibly say, yeah, Shaedon Sharpe's going to be as good as player X from this list? Where do you think they would put him?
The two of the names that jump out are Trey Murphy, because he was averaging 14 points the season he got the extension. The very next season, he was averaging 21. They are different sorts of players, of course. I think Trey Murphy's more of a 3-and-D specialist. But, just the boost in offense, they also were at a very similar age. Or, Mikal Bridges is another name, very much a scorer, mid-range shooter.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Both of those players coincidentally got almost exactly 20% of the cap. And so let's say that he's getting 20% of the cap. Boy, I really should have done my math on this one. That would be a contract equivalent to $31 million a year. $31 million a year. So that's
what's 31 times 5? What number are we at?
155. A 5-year, $155 million. So that, if you're Sharpe's representation saying Trey Murphy, come on, he can be better than Trey Murphy. Mikal Bridges is good, but thought he might be better, but Shaedon Sharpe's gonna be better than that, right? Shaedon Sharpe has he has flashes in his offensive game that scream potentially all NBA. Now, flashes do not a season make, but that's what his representation are going to say for this 22-year-old young man who has so much room to grow. And so would it surprise you? Should the Blazers do that? If his representation are look, Trey Murphy, come on, give us $30 million a year. We want the 5 years. He could outpace this contract. We're not asking for $50 million. If this guy pops in an All-Star, you'd have to pay him $50 million, right? You're getting a bargain by paying him $150 million for 5 years. What do you say if you're Joey C? What do you say if you're in the Crone Zone and Sharpe's representation or try to sell you on a 5-year 150? What do you say to that without hurting their feelings?
Yeah, I don't think it's egregious.
Yeah.
We talked about the upside, but also if their first offer was 90, 150 feels maybe a little bit outside the zone of the Crone Zone, I would imagine.
Which over 5 years would be 112. So you're talking 112, 150. That's a sizable gap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think? Is that feeling good about that?
Yeah. Okay. Here's what I think. The 22-year-old Shaedon Sharpe is not a finished product yet, right? At least you hope/assume that he's not. Many of the players on this list improved after they signed their contract. Some of them didn't. It's not guaranteed that just because you're 22 that you're going to be a better basketball player when you're 25, but it's certainly possible. In my view, the Blazers don't have that many avenues either to get a player with this much potential or to create the salary slot that he would occupy that you could then trade him later. And that's where I think of some of this where it's like, it's not even what is he worth to the Blazers at $150 million over 5 years. It is, let's say that like you sign that this year, right? And he's playing and and Blazers aren't doing that well. And surprise, surprise, Chauncey Billups is not like the most amazing coach in the world or whatever. And the Blazers like, look, I guess we're going to start over again, ? Right? Like we don't have anyone on the team who's a star. We have no way to get a star. We have to go back into tanking with, by the way, different episode. That would be a little disheartening to enter 3 or 4 more years of
the
purgatory.
Tank jump. Yeah. No.
Or not even purgatory, like below purgatory. But my point is there are, Connor, 29 other NBA teams. You're telling me there's not a team that'd be willing to pay 20% of their cap for a now 23-year-old Shaedon Sharpe? Like you could still sell the idea of potential in a year or possibly even 2. Possibly.
And I do think he's going to be better this year. Like I think it's depending on how much, obviously, but like I don't think he's going to regress. So like I think to answer your question more directly, I think to me, if I'm the Blazers, I think there's a bigger risk that he pops and now he's commanding like 40 or 50 million. I would way rather just get him signed at something like 30 million a year. Pray that he gets better. And then also, if he doesn't get all that much better, pray that one of the other 29 teams can talk themselves into him. Like, and I don't think he's going to get worse. Like, this is the thing where it's like, it seems really unlikely to me that he's going to regress. Yeah.
Like, the Jeremy Grant contract, different age, different situation, he regressed. Like, the reason why the Blazers have all this trouble trading Jeremy Grant on the number that he's on is because he's much older and he got worse, and that's a bummer, right? But, like, I find regression with Shaedon Sharpe to be highly unlikely.
Mm-hmm. So you think even if he doesn't pop the way they want to, there's still going to be a trade market for him, and they can still pivot, which I think is totally correct. And the big thing, like I think about Shaedon Sharpe this year is if he's not the guy who like pops and becomes the all-star, like you said, there's really not another option to get a star, and it's not like a total failure on this portion of the rebuild, but like they're gonna have to make a hard pivot, and like they're two, depending on how Scoot does, like I don't think he's gonna pop as the main all-star either. So it's like those two guys who back-to-back tank seasons was like the big prize. They didn't pop, so there's like a lot of importance riding on him. So I think like an investment in him is just important for where they're at, and if they you get what I'm saying, right? Like, and if
no, I do. And I mean, by the way, like, not to make this about this topic, but do you know who's extension eligible after this season is Denny Avdia, who is currently on an incredibly great value contract. Probably, I would say, actually, I think Denny, if he's not already, is probably going to be the most maybe not valuable, but like the most discrepancy between how good he is and what he's being paid possibly in the league, like next year. Like if he even gets a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable. So Blazers have that. And then, so, okay, we've talked a lot. I want to cut to the quick. I want to cut to the Jason Quick of the situation. Shout out to Corvallis says, oh, Jason Quick. What do you think Shaedon Sharpe is worth? And again, I want us to get like, we said a bunch of names. I mean, we're talking about, think if you're a Rockets fan, a Pelicans fan, a Raptors fan, San Antonio appears on this list a lot, by the way, a Spurs fan, that we, don't just think about this as like, I've seen Shaedon Sharpe play a lot, but like, what is he worth in this league-wide market in this salary cap environment, $154 million cap, like, what do you think he's going to get? Actually, let's start here. Do you think that they're going to sign the extension, or is he going to let this ride until next year into restricted free agency?
I think if that first offer was 90, I wouldn't be surprised if Shaedon Sharpe and his representation just say, all right, we're going to bet on ourselves and come back and get a big paycheck next summer. So I don't think it'll get there.
And can I, as you say that, something comes to mind, kind of flipping the polarity a little bit, but like all of the talk that Jonathan Kuminga's agent did, he went on a public roadshow about what my client will and will not accept. Well, at the end of the day, they accepted something that they said that they wouldn't accept. And my point is to say that, like, if the Blazers throw out 90 and they're trying to anchor there, it's possible that they will allow themselves to get dragged into a different number, and that's not unheard of, whether you're a team or an agent for a player. So you think this is going to go into restricted free agency? Is that what your guess would be?
Yeah, if I had to guess.
So, okay, actually, so October 20 comes and goes, and I guess he's going to restricted free agency. Let's say that Shaedon Sharpe just gets a little bit better, okay? Just like a little bit more efficient, a little bit better. The flashes come slightly more frequently. The stats go up a little bit. Like, aren't you concerned that about how much he'd be worth at that point? Like, yeah, that's my concern.
Oh, for sure. As a Shaedon
so then why not
Sharpe,
just sign him now?
Because like, I don't know. I don't know what the Crone Zone's totally thinking, to be honest.
Yeah.
If I'm at the wheel, man, I'm paying this. You see the dunks, man. Yeah. It's I've been a Shaedon Sharpe supporter.
You see the dunk got the highest dunk score. Like NBA's got a dunk metric, got the highest dunk metric.
Yeah, that's worth all the salary cap. The dunk metric.
That's all they talk about here on the East Coast is the dunk score. By the way, you know, when I ride the subway into work every day. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
So okay, like. I don't know, but like I don't know where I'm going with this. Like, just maybe to wrap this up, like I actually think there is significant risk to the team if they don't do this now. Mike Richmond talked about it a little bit, but I want to say, for me, as I've thought about it, I think that risk is significant. That if he plays even a little bit better, that he's still pretty young, he shows improvement again. And that his potential number, again, to 29 other teams or to the 30th team in the Blazers, that number gets really big really fast. So with that in mind, I expect that they do get a deal done before the 20th. I do think it's going to be a lot bigger than 4 for 90. I think that, like, I'm just going to put it out there. Here's my guess. I think it's 5 for 140. I think that's what it's going to be. And I think the Blazers would be smart to do that. So you can clip this later in 2027 when Shaedon Sharpe is like out of the league and be like, look at that guy. But like, or hey, clip it when he's a 2-time All-Star. Like that, you know, either way. But yeah.
You know, and I hate to be a flip-flopper, but even just that, your reasoning makes...
You're John Kerry on the what was it, the kite surfing thing. And by the way, yeah,
I love a good flip flop. I'm not even fully flip flopping, but like
let the man windsurf in peace. By the way, we love water sports here. We like the Blazers.
I do agree that the risk is huge, and like even if you don't think he's the long term answer, just to have control of the asset, not to put Shaedon Sharpe in non-human terms, but to have to not just lose him or have to be out, like wildly outbid somebody next summer. I think that is important. If I came in here thinking that the number might be like 5 for 120 around there, but Brandon, your arguments have persuaded me to raise my own bargaining at the table, and I'm going to say like 5 for 130. I think that's
okay.
Where this kind of. I think that's fair. It's not crazy. Like 150 sounds like too much.
I just don't think it is, but whatever. Like again, like if you run through, I'm not going to repeat the names, but this list of names, that entire list covers between 23 and 32 million a year, right? And so I think it's very difficult for me even, and I follow basketball pretty closely, Connor, like I listen to NBA podcasts as I fall asleep on a sleep timer. Like I am deranged, okay? I'm not like the most knowledgeable person on the planet, but I ingest a lot of basketball, and it's difficult for me to understand how these numbers keep getting pulled up, because certainly just as a human in the world, the cost of living and the price of food and transportation, and I'm not seeing that benefit. Like I wish we lived in a world where people's wages rose the way that they rose in the NBA. That would be amazing. That's not the world that we live in, so I think it's hard to conceptualize. But that's where you do have to think about, like, okay, as a percentage of the total amount of money that the team can spend, ... as a percentage of the cap, I think that's where you need to anchor yourselves. And for that reason, I think that like 4 for 140, 5 for 140, 5 for 150 is actually not that unreasonable. So
yeah. You're saying don't get the sticker shock. Like add the context, and it'll make you feel better.
And look, if he gets horribly, you sign him and he gets horribly injured, like that sucks. That's not likely to happen. If you sign him and he does, slightly worse than this year, I find that to be like exceedingly unlikely. If you sign him and he doesn't progress at all, I find that to be kind of unlikely, but I think you could maybe even still live with that. You sign him and he improves a little bit, boom, like value contract. You sign him and he improves kind of a lot. Wow, like one
huge
of the best
value contract.
So
yeah.
I don't know. I think if you're the Blazers, I think you got to do it. So is there anything else that we want to say about this? I feel like we have twisted this sponge, and now the sponge is very dry.
No, I appreciate your table and your I do appreciate the table, because I am somebody who I've been more of a narrative guy in my NBA writing experience, so the salary cap stuff is a little tricky for me to grasp, and I feel like I understand the Shaedon Sharpe situation better after hearing your reasoning.
Well, and something that I didn't do with this, because it would have taken another couple hours, is like, what is the context for these? I don't know. We have like 15 or 16 different players here, right? All of them have different contexts. All of them have what age they were and how many years they were in the league and whether they were injured that year or whatever. That, this is not like a perfectly clean evaluation, and 15 or 16 is not a huge data set, but it's going back 5 years, it's the best we could do. So all to say, if you want to dig into that more, go to Blazers Edge, find the article that accompanies this episode. This table will be in there. So yeah, we'll see what happens before October 20th. Of course, if Shaedon Sharpe gets signed between now and then, we're going to jump on the pod and talk about it. But is there anything else you wanted to hit on before we adjourn for today?
No, I think that is it. Preseason games start tomorrow, so we won't have just FanFest.
Yes.
We won't have just FanFest analysis.
Can we talk about that briefly? And that's something that we maybe should have discussing. But the preseason starts tomorrow. That's amazing. The Blazers are playing the Golden State Warriors at 7 p.m. Pacific. That's 10 p.m. my time. They then get back together. They're playing that one on the road. They're staying in California, playing the Kings on the road on Friday, also at 7 p.m. Pacific. And then after that, I think, are those the only 2 preseason games that they're...
No, they've got 4. They've got 4. They've got 2 more.
What's going on with this schedule? Okay. Do you have the other 2 in front of you?
I do not.
Okay, so I don't know.
They play the Warriors again, I think. Let me see.
I should have worded this is great radio. I can do this right now.
This is live, baby.
So they're playing Wednesday at the Warriors, Friday actually at home against the Kings, Tuesday at home against the Warriors, and then next Thursday on the road against the Jazz. So between tomorrow and next Thursday, the 16th, they're playing those 4 preseason games. Quick prediction: Warriors twice, Kings once, Jazz once. The preseason games. But what's your predicted record for whoever decides to play for either team in these preseason games?
I go 3-1.
I was going to say 3-1 as well, and I'm going to do it. ESPN is saying tickets as low as $6. Go catch the Jazz and Blazers. Yeah, I mean, I'm I'm very interested to see how people look. I'm interested probably most to see Yang Han Sen, but there are other players I'm interested in too.
Yeah, check out Blake Wesley. That's where I'm kind of curious to see how many minutes he gets. What he looks like. And
probably looks like a basketball player, Connor. He's probably wearing a jersey, shoes.
Probably looks fast. Probably
deal.
looks good on defense.
Yeah.
But yeah, 3-1. I think last year when the Blazers beat the brakes off, I think it was Utah in the preseason. I think it turned a page on the Chauncey Billups preseason basketball experience, because for 4 years, for like the first 3 years, they got thrashed during preseason games, and last year I think their whole defensive thing, it's kind of changed the vibe. They try harder than maybe other teams do in the preseason now.
Call them the Portland Tryhards. Maybe this is the Nate Bjorkgren effect. Who knows? I'm also interested. I mean, Golden State is a very old team, but I'm actually not familiar with their depth. Maybe they have a bunch of young people who are also, who knows. But if you want to check out a burp into the microphone or those preseason games, that's what we do. We do it live. If you want to check out any of that stuff or hear us talk about it, you can do that. Go to WeLikeTheBlazers.com. Check out our work at Blazers Edge. Also, you can find us on Blue Sky. I'm Brandon Mullen. That's Connor Bergen. We appreciate having you. Also, special guest next week. Wink, won't spoil it. Just, you never know. People sometimes flake out. But hopefully coming at you with 3 people next week. But until then and until next time, we appreciate you, and go Blazers.